I recommend Assassin's Creed Shadows for anybody looking for an open world packed with content and two protagonists that you will end up rooting for as you play the game. For me, it hit the spot for those things and much more. And I want to dive into this review to give you guys my perspective as a longtime Assassin's Creed fan, finally getting a game that I felt hit home for me when it comes to the story and the experience. Let's get into it. First things first, we're going to be watching the first hour of the game. Not too many spoilers, we've seen this on the trailers, but it does showcase the beginnings of both characters and what sets them off to start their journey. While this is a spoiler free video, I'll briefly discuss this at the very start about their journeys and their beginnings. They basically becoming who they need to be for the foreseeable future is pretty much what you'll get. And a lot of things start setting them in motion that we'll witness throughout this video and when you play. And I actually was rooting for these guys and really kind of love them dearly to the point where I have this Assassin's Creed Shadows game in my top five of all Assassin's Creed games. If you're wondering which ones I put ahead of it, well, part one, part two, and Unity are just three of my top favorites. I'll leave the fourth one as a mystery. And then Shadow comes in at number five. Maybe it's recency bias, but that's okay. We're here to be open and honest with my thoughts and feelings after finishing the game and spending over 100 hours with the extra content. Speaking of content, the story has some amazing cutscenes and they kind of really go off on a couple of very cool moments what are very special, but overall they did a good job presenting these characters in the universe of Japan. If you didn't know, during this time there's a lot of turmoil within the ranks and also the external pieces trying to invade and be a part of everything within Japan. And it's a super interesting time, and we've seen movies, documentaries, and so much more. So being able to put two characters in this fictional storyline with all the moving pieces actually had me intrigued, knowing what I knew about the history, and then of course adding the Assassin's Creed elements. And to me, it was well done, and we can go down the rabbit hole of those conversations about the things that were presented and all that a little later. Now, outside of the story, which I thought was pretty good to the point where I was mad that it was over, but pretty happy with the outcome. And I'm excited to the point where I actually want a trilogy with these characters. And maybe we'll get it, maybe we won't, but that would be amazing. I feel like NAOE and YASUKE have incredible structure and all of that. So we'll see. I mean, of course, there's no guaranteed, and Ubisoft has been only making single stories of each of the protagonists that they've had, only with Ezio getting the trilogy. But that's my personal take on if we should get more. I promise you, by the time you finish it, if you're already hooked, you're gonna want more. And that is it for the story. We're not going to dive too deep into any of it, even though you'll watch some cutscenes of introducing how these characters made it into Japan and how their stories started to unfold. I wanted to kind of take things off and go into the traditional review conversation. I played this game on the PlayStation 5 and I played it on performance mode. Every piece of footage that you watch for my playthrough was on performance mode. Only after I beat the game, I started to put it on quality mode just to see the differences. And yes, of course, you're going to see some really great enhancements. But honestly, I didn't feel too bad about performance mode. It looked well and it played well. I can't say this is the greatest graphics in the history of video games. We do have Hideo Kojima's brand new Death Stranding 2, but it is well put together and you're not going to be mad at this, in my opinion. At least not on the PlayStation 5. So, performance mode gives you 60 FPS. That's more than enough. Graphic mode, quality mode gives you 30 FPS, but better fidelity. And then there's a balance mode that gives you 40 FPS and pretty good quality. So it's your choice, whatever you're feeling. Personally, I like the FPS. Talking about FPS performances, if you want me to get into any bugs and glitches, I did not experience many in my normal playthrough of the story, but there were a couple of small little things, trying to climb through somewhere I'm not supposed to climb, a mountaintop and a cliff, then maybe I get a little bit glitched up character, but that wasn't anything that I felt was game breaking where I didn't want to play the game anymore or they stopped me from playing. It was just a quick moment. And there was one fight, boss fight that I had that had a little bit of a glitch that wasn't that serious where the animation kind of was a mess. Other than that, there wasn't nothing major that I can say was game breaking or frustrating where it stopped me from playing the game. So, props to them for that. A lot of times these open world games can be very difficult, but I had a good time. Speaking of good time, we're going to get into the characters and the gameplay. We're going to just go individually first, and then I'll talk in general. Funny enough, Yasuke has amazing playability. I'm a traditional Assassin's Creed fan who wanted stealth and parkour as the only thing Assassin's Creed should be. And then they created Origins, Odyssey, and Valhalla, which is more RPG, kind of like Witcher 3 and so on. They wanted to follow that formula. And I kind of accepted that that's what they want to do. And then Yasuke comes along and he is pretty much the staple of that, where he's an action hero, breaking, smashing through doors and brutally assassinating people. And even though it's true he's not the best stealther or parkour player, you can stealth and parkour with him. The developers put a lot of ladders or just things to climb for Yasuke specifically. While Naoe has her grapple, Yasuke can actually get up almost anywhere. It wasn't after a while of playing I started to see this pattern and realize, hey, well, in the beginning I actually said I'm not going to be able to climb with this guy. He's useless. And I kind of had a pessimist look towards his parkour and stealth. And after 100 hours, I could say he's easily capable. While it isn't the best or the fastest or the most efficient, it is a very cool challenge to go into a castle and try to stealth the Yasuke. I started using his bow and arrow, which has silent arrows, which could one-shot pretty much anybody. And then also using his whistle to lure enemies, keep them away from others, and using the environment to get around, even climbing and using parkour a bit. And it was exciting. And I said, hey, man, this is a challenge. This isn't the normal, like, I can get away with anything, but this is cool. And so I had fun doing that. But what's amazing about him is the moment you do get into combat and he's just ripping through enemies in a very fun way where you feel like a badass. And honestly, video games have to make us feel that way. I think, you're playing a video game, you want to feel like a superhero if you're playing an action RPG style of a game. And they nailed it because he really can just mow through people. You could just run into someone and push them back far, and then he'll literally lift people up in the air with his swords. And it is brutal, but pretty awesome to have a character that badass. And I enjoyed it. And speaking of enjoying it, as I said, his storyline takes you on a journey, as this servant slash slave who gets taught to be a samurai, which we're watching the cutscenes of now, where he's told, hey man, you can be useful, you can be somebody. And so that's how he starts his journey and trains to be a samurai. And this story is very compelling. What happens next in his life and the next steps are extremely interesting and take you through a multitude of a roller coaster ride that's very special in my opinion. And we're going to get deeper into some gameplay and other things as we go, but I just wanted to point that out, that it's very fun. And in the middle of this video, you're watching the Animus pieces, which I'm not going to talk too heavily about, but there are a lot of little hints of modern day stuff that shows you where this series is going. And that is very interesting, and I've enjoyed it drastically, even though I want more modern day, which won't be getting too deep into. Now, they move us 6 months, and by this time, you already know about YASUKE and NAOE and somewhat what's possible of how they cross paths. And you see YASUKE as a samurai, and this is my hands-on blind playthrough of the introduction. And again, just feeling how hardcore he is and how intense really made me love this character a ton combat wise. And with gameplay, I can say that your blocks, your parries, and all of that has some weight to it, and your attacks really do have weight to them as well. I purposely got hit to see how it felt, purposely parried, did charge attacks, these things, the brutal finishes, all of this stuff kind of showcasing YASUKE and seeing what he's really about when I finally got my hands on it. And I absolutely felt like, okay, this could be fun. And on top of that, he has 3 weapons. We're using the katana that I absolutely loved, but I absolutely enjoyed the Narinaga or many others. And as you get these weapons, you can basically go to the skill tree and level up specific attacks and buff up the damage. And there's plenty of things within the skill tree to help you really enjoy the weapons even more. So it's basically enhancing the weapons. And so I ended up really liking this combat, and I have a bunch of guides for how to play and do a bunch of things. And we got an advanced guide that's coming out as well in the near future to help anybody with the combat. But like I said, you can see how YASUKE is pushing people back and doing what he does. And this is one of those things where, the versatility in his fighting style is pretty awesome. And not everybody's going to want to do only combat, but I could just say this, and we're going to kind of talk about the truth here, is every Assassin's Creed always had a lot of combat. Even though myself loves the parkour and the stealth, all of the games always had parkour. Combat maxed as something that was a big part of it. And they had just a counter system for some of the games, which was pretty odd, where you just had to wait to counter people. And then they had other games where you could just spam attack and all of that. And while I do think that this game does have the capability of you just waiting for counters, Or if you want to spam as well, when you put the game on hardest difficulty, the enemies are going to dodge or parry your attacks a little bit more. So you have to play strategic. You want to do charge attacks sometimes. You want to, surprise attack them. There's certain things that are going to make the game so much better, at least in my opinion. And that was where I felt like, oh, this is cool. And talking about difficulty, yes, put it on expert for combat, and you're going to feel a difference where multiple enemies will attack you at the same time. And, they will get aggressive, and it's amazing. At least for me, I enjoyed it a ton, and I can't wait to do a second playthrough. By the time this review comes out, I'll be live streaming my playthrough of the official live stream version, playing the game again. Speaking of that, there is no new game plus as of yet. The devs said they're working on it. I cannot wait for that. I definitely need that in my life. But I absolutely really enjoyed the journey. There's things in this game where in the very beginning you're learning to be a samurai, you're training. Even though we're watching the first hour, they take you back to Yasuke training to be a samurai and all the suffering, the discrimination, and all the different things that he went through just to get there. And I thought that was very special, helping us fall deeper into this character on who he is and why he's driven the way he is. And to be honest, he was such a mystery. We didn't know his backstory early on, and it actually made me really, really excited to learn more. And it's kind of crazy. If you pay attention, we're not going to go all the way down the rabbit hole here, but the way these two characters kind of connect in whatever way they do, as we saw in the trailers, the game hints at them working together. And there's footage of them working together, actually. But you're seeing your Yasuke take out these shinobi, which is the other protagonist's players. That's their team. That's who they work with. So it's kind of a sad, start and intriguing one of how can two people work together when Yasuke is a soldier taking out the shinobi. And again, this is where their relationship starts to get interesting, and who they become later is so amazing. And my wish again is for the trilogy to come about at some point. Personally, I prefer a trilogy with these guys, but I know that right now they have multiple games that they're going to be coming out with in the future for the series, and we'll see how those go. So I just want to talk about general gameplay stuff while we continue to watch some of this. Yasuke being who he was and Naoe being who she was, the gameplay allows you to swap back and forth. You're not stuck with one character. Other than the prologue stuff that you're watching, most of the game, at least 70 to 80% or more, is open for you to switch back and forth. And you can switch almost in every moment. And unless you're in a restricted area in the middle of combat and things like that, those are the times you can't switch. And this is cool because then you just have freedom to play an open world game and enjoy the fun and excitement within that. There's plenty of castles, and I mean a lot of castles, and other things where you can just get in there and practice your combat, practice your stealth. And that's what I basically did. I used these castles that I could invade for great gear. And to me, the loot system was very good. They had a lot of targeted loot. The castle was showcased that there's a sword in there, and then another castle will have a helmet. And every castle was pretty cool in my opinion. And it gave me the freedom to kind of say, hey, I need a new sword, or I want to pick up a new armor. Let me go over here and pick this up. And that was kind of the driving force for extra content for me, unlocking all the cool gear that I want to try out, test out builds. And you're going to see a lot of builds. I mean, I made so many videos, I might not put all of them out with every single piece tested and things like that. I might put only some of them out because there's some really good combinations. But by the time you watch this, there'll be one or two of them out and way more in the future. With that in mind, I also kind of felt like, the overall system is going to be something people might discuss. Hey, I beat the game, it was great. It took me 40 hours. And then, I started doing side quests and I felt like it was repetitive. I kept going invading into castles and oh man, here we go. It's like, you know what? You're boring. I'm sorry to say it, but you're boring. You are boring because I can go into the 30 plus castles and switch my gameplay and my playstyle, change my skills, change my weapon, change my character, use their weapons and skills, and do different combinations to make it fun, exciting, and interesting for me. And you don't have to agree with that. You might not need to like it, but it's exciting, it's interesting, and it was fun for me. And some people, like I said, are a little bit boring. And I hate to make a review where I'm attacking people, but you're gonna see reviewers try to say, this 100 plus hours of finishing the whole 100% completion. I mean, if you're a completionist, you're gonna have plenty of content to just kind of dive into. And then there's the people who might say that's too much. I don't want it. Well, don't bother. Just play the story. There's plenty of story. Um, 30 to 40 hours or so if you just finish the main story. And I think I can finish it faster. We're going to do a speed run. By the time this review comes out, I'm going to be live doing a speed run to see how far I can get in one day. If I can beat the whole game, that would be crazy. Of course, there's targeted enemies and things like that where you're going to be hunting down a specific clan. That is very cool. But yeah, um, just give it a chance and see what happens. Maybe just play the story if you're not into all of the other stuff. It's what I would say as a critique. Because like I said, I totally get it. There'll be some people who just feel how they feel and want to find a rant about it. And I understand that too. I'm not here to defend the game, just to be clear. Truth is, if it was bad and I didn't like it, I would say so. But I enjoyed myself. And that type of thing didn't bother me necessarily. You know? But yeah. Of course, things that did bother me we'll get into a little bit and kind of share some of my experience and my thoughts. But let's get into NAOE. As we can see right here, we're getting to see her storyline. And I really cried for two scenes early on, something that happens within the first 2 hours or so. And then later, somewhere in the middle of the story, there's another impactful thing that really touched me. And she was involved with both of them. And felt really good about her because they really emotionally connected you to her. Yasuke is more just of a mystery man. And then Naoe is kind of like the emotional character that you can really relate to early on and go through her journey. As you can see, she's fighting off people in her village, and her combat is a little bit different. And I want to kind of dive into that, where she's has less health and can't do these brutal lifting people off the ground. She is more nimble. She can dodge. She can, you know, really hack and slash and put out some serious damage. She has a katana also, but it's a smaller version. And she fights like a shinobi, where she could go crazy with the tanto and different weapons. And I really love her combat actually because it did make me feel more like an assassin course, she's a shinobi, and I just really loved that feeling of like, hey, and this is just me as a traditionalist. I want to be able to not be a tank and be unkillable. And this is where she shined and gave me that old school feeling of like, hey man, you can get killed here if you get hit twice, or maybe three times at most. So just be smart, take your time, and don't get caught off guard, and play defensively when you need to, and still be super aggressive. And this is my first playthrough with her. Again, this is the first hour of the game. I didn't want to give you guys some crazy uh, footage of end game content, so I decided to just showcase my actual blind playthrough so that you guys can enjoy the game for yourselves and then see where we go. But yeah, with NAOE, one thing I love, again, the thing with these characters and that I wanted to mention is the skill tree is kind of crazy. Okay. Skill tree allows you to be overpowered. And so when you start the game, you're not going to be as overpowered and you're working up to that and you're unlocking skill points. But once you get the full max skill tree, well, not even max, once you start maxing some things on the skill tree, you're basically unkillable. There's a skill where you can dodge and everything. There's plenty of just powerful things like instant assassination and so on. And I absolutely love that if that's the way you want to play and the freedom of choice. Or you can just do things like I did, which was use your tools and play more stealthy. She is the most agile. She has the grapple hook where she can climb anywhere, basically. Almost. And it makes it very fun to experience that. And of course, the stealthing, being able to assassinate people and ghost a mission or two. If you don't know what ghosting is, not getting seen by anybody and only taking out the target that you're meant to take out. And I had really a great time with her as a true assassination style player. And that's where, this game shines because it allowed me to live what I prefer. And in the back of my mind, I thought about other people who are more casual, who like to play the RPG games and more into the hack and slash aspects of Assassin's Creed. And I kind of accepted that this series now will have this kind of dual experience. And while I felt like Origins, Odyssey, and Valhalla kind of missed out on more stealth, this game really pushes you to it and takes you to that journey. And so, super interesting. And speaking of taking you to that journey, her getting the hidden blade in this very scene, her father telling her to go find a box, is pretty much the introduction to the game and her greater purpose. And what's in the box? As our famous movie 7 once said, what's in the box? We will see if you play the game or if you come to my live stream, so when I replay. But she has incredible purpose, and so does Yasuke, and they come together, giving you what I'm talking about when it comes to the experience now, where it is RPG if you want it to be with the hack and slash action, or you can become a stealth player who really loves parkour and enjoys that aspect. And so, again, to each his own, right? How you want to play this and what you feel is best is all personal preference. And that's something that I do think the studio took into account. Because the skepticals are saying, oh, here we go, they're going to ruin the Assassin's Creed experience. And then there's the other people like, oh, they better give me my RPG elements. And as a fan of one or the other, remember, there's a lot of fans in the series. That's kind of something that I humbly really started to realize throughout these recent years, where the fan base is so big that it's very difficult. There's so many different people that want different things. And as I went to make this review, I thought about who does this game satisfy, and why would I recommend it? Well, this next portion is my answer to that. It satisfied me. It made me really excited for the future, wanting to see more of the modern day through the Animus, which is the device. It's basically a launcher. Okay, so you turn the game on, you're gonna pop the Animus open, and then you can go into Shadows, but you could also go into Valhalla or Origins, Odyssey, and whatever game you want. And this is such a cool feature for me personally because I do have all the games on my system, and sometimes I would play them. I would just go in just to experience a mission or two or do something. And so now we have the capability, and I think that is important. But they focus on the modern day within the Animus, and I believe more will come out throughout the year. And I'm just very curious about that because it is interesting lore, and I know that this might be hard for some of you to listen to, but Assassin's Creed is a sci-fi game. It's basically about going into a machine that lets you travel to the past, and you're not time traveling, but you are in a way, and it's kind of like a VR machine, but going into the real history of things. So, I mean, it's a sci-fi, and so that part is important to me, and I want more of the modern day because we've been missing it from some of the more recent AC games. And I bring that up because, that's something that piqued my interest. And then, of course, these characters' journey, which I can't spoil, but the way things end leave me wanting so much more. And hopefully, we'll get it as we go. And then on top of that, and you're going to be watching some very good, heavy stuff that's happening next, guys. So, a little bit of a spoiler visually to prepare you of possibilities. So, just a fair warning. Then on top of that, you get this old story of these shinobi who, as you can see, are using Assassin's Creed Hidden Blade to open up secret caves and find a box. What's in the box? We won't find out on this video, I promise. But what I can say is that this was so intriguing, just for NAOE's story, but Yasuke is also involved in this. So both of these things kind of help you take yourself to that next level of like, okay, this could be extremely interesting and take you to another level with the characters. I'm invested story wise. Then on top of that, now you have the assassins, the original, lore of like the Brotherhood or whatever's going on. You have the mystery of the Templars, possibly. Yet we got hints in the trailers that I talked about. I don't want to say anything or not, but who knows how these two forces come together against each other, with each other. All of those things are possible. And so for me, for true fans, you can get something out of this if you're into the Assassin's Creed series. And then as far as the second half, for the people who are new to the game, if you just played the story, you have some compelling elements for each of the characters. And we just watched the visuals of that. I didn't want to get into a bunch of like deep down breakdown on the game because I wanted you all to go to my guides and learn about the actual gameplay and mechanics and all those features. Because it just review is strictly to discuss the experience and why I recommend it. So that's what I got for you guys. And I hope that you guys can look into it and see everything for yourselves. A very cool Assassin's Creed experience, a very cool game that you can start to develop and grow this into the series. I'm very curious on what the community would feel and other reviewers would feel, but this is just my personal take, and this is why I recommend it. And of course, my guides of combat tips and tricks and the way I enjoyed it will help you see the clearer picture for my personal. Oh, this is what I was doing, testing out this build. I was working on, exploring this world. The visuals look great. The landscapes are amazing. The universe is just top notch. Japan couldn't have been better. And so, yeah, that's where I stand. And if I was to give this a score, which I don't usually do scores, I have to go with an 8.5 or higher. I could honestly put this at a solid 9. But 8.5 is me kind of, timmering down recency bias. And 8.5, the lowest I will go. But hope you guys enjoyed. And again, I have some real guides, tips and tricks, builds, combat stuff, all in the channel. They'll be uploading all nonstop every day. Check them out. See for yourself. Hope you guys enjoyed this. See you on the next one. Make sure to leave a like and comment to show support to the channel. We try to leave no ads and let you guys just enjoy these videos. This is the new thing that we're doing. So support the channel as much as can, and we're here for you. All right. Stay safe. Stay blessed. Peace.